Hello, Eric.
What's up, Jonathan?
It's been a long time. How you been?
Not well. Not well.
Yep.
Is that one of just
If that doesn't describe the past 8 months, I don't know what does. Yeah, it's been 8 months since we've been with you all, and that wasn't the plan. Anything happened in the past 8 months, Eric? Like, how you been?
it's been wild. I mean, I know the joke
I don't have hair
is,
anymore,
I,
so there's that.
well, there you go. Yeah, and you got a whole lot more tattoos. The joke is when people are like, "Oh man, season 2026 of America is wild right now." It's like, yes, I don't know that. I mean, so much happens, and you hear the terminology "flood the zone," but so much has happened in the last year to 4 years that you're just like, that's more than should happen in a decade, you know? So it's been really, really crazy. And then even like as we're recording this, recent events have popped up church-wide for my own life. And so it's just very much like, man, it just keeps coming. You just don't ever have a sense of normalcy. There is no more normal.
We did survive the rapture, though. So
That's true.
there was that back in
Several
September.
raptures, right?
I think there's
I
been
think,
two or three at this point.
is
I
that where
wish
we need to
we'd
have
all been ready.
instead of like a two-time World War champ, we need like a
We survived the
27,000.
2026 raptures.
Yeah, how many times have I
2025.
survived the rapture?
All right. Well, it has been 8 months. That was not the plan. I want to say that from the get-go. It was not the plan for us to take 8 months. I have an entire season written out that we had planned to record over the summer and then release it in September, October, that area. But I haven't felt like I was in a place where I'm comfortable talking about the church and the tensions of faith and life in a public setting. Eric and I have had conversations. I've had conversations with many of you, but I haven't felt like I was in a place where I could put this into a microphone that's going to live on Al Gore's internet for the rest of time.
I think Beyonce and Taylor Swift would have something to say about Al Gore's internet.
Maybe Justin Timberlake can buy it and then mess
There
up
we
the
go.
servers so all the
There
pictures
we
get
go.
deleted again.
There we go. Let's do
Which,
that.
if you ever wondered where your MySpace photos are, that's what happened. Justin Timberlake bought MySpace. Some stuff happened. The servers went kaput. And so all of our old photos, thankfully, some thankfully, some not, are gone.
There we go. So where do we go from here?
I don't know.
Let's talk about
Because,
why. Why
yeah.
why haven't we been recording? Or why don't you feel comfortable talking about church in a public setting on Al Gore's internet?
I have too much love for what the church should be to be someone on the internet only tearing it down.
Okay.
When we started Unlearning Youth Group, which is what, if you're new to us, that's what this podcast was started as. It was a show called Unlearning Youth Group. One of our core values and the way we framed the show was to find the good, unlearn the bad, and figure out where the heck we go from here. Our goal was never to tear everything down. When we started, like, that's when deconstruction was really big on the internet. And it's like, we were unlearning. We weren't tearing the whole thing down.
Mm-hmm.
And over the last 8 months, it's been really hard for me to find the good in the American church. So I don't feel right just tearing things down.
Yeah. I would say similar, where it is kind of like, if we keep going with the idea of tension and finding the tension between things, I find myself a lot more of like, I'm not sure there's as much of a tension for me anymore, as much as I feel the need to speak out against things that are going on, whether it's a Nathan speaking truth to power to David, or a John the Baptist being the one crying in the wilderness. Like that's a lot more where I'm feeling now because, and we'll talk about this later. I think my whole thesis for today is I want to hear from the people that listen to us. I want to know, what do you need from us? Because for me, the stories that I hear and the feedback that I hear around this time when I share anything about faith or even faith as it relates to politics, to Christian nationalism, whatever, is like people going, I thought I was crazy. I'm glad to know I'm not alone. Those sorts of things. And so if I'm thinking through like, that's what I want to continue to do is be a voice that makes other people feel like they're not alone. Like the Jesus that they know and love, the red letters, so to speak, are still alive and well. And that's still what Christianity stands for, in spite of what we're seeing in power right now.
And I think for me, I haven't, and this doesn't mean this is right. So like, I'm just letting people know, like, I don't necessarily say this is the only way. I haven't found out a way to do that myself that doesn't sound like I'm just crapping on the church.
Yeah.
And I don't want to, like, I don't want to be that guy. Like, I I want to be fair and balanced, Eric. I want to be fair and balanced. Like, I know that there's a lot of good happening in the church. I still work with churches and ministries in my job, and I'm still, and we can get to this in a little bit. I'm still a semi-active member in my church, not as much as I want to be, not as much as I have been. So I hear about these good things that are happening, but like where I'm at personally, we are at the point where past few months we've only been going to church once a month, and that's because we still serve in our kids ministry. Mm-hmm. And I feel a responsibility from Jesus, not from pastors or church leadership, to continue serving. And it's not those kids' fault that people are being stupid. So I've really only been going to church once a month because when I get up in church, and let me say this explicitly as well, because I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea. I love my church. I love my pastors. I think our church leadership is best of the best, and I trust them. So this is not a me versus my church leadership thing. I know many of you are having to deal with that. So my situation's a little different. I do trust my leadership. But when I walk into the auditorium and we're singing a song about God destroying my enemies, I legitimately don't know if the writer of that song meant destroying people who aren't Christian nationalists or if it meant spiritual enemies. And I get that sounds hyperbolic, but after half the main songwriters in current church music showed up at Charlie Kirk's political rally funeral, I truly don't know what they meant in their hearts when they wrote those songs. And so I have trouble singing those songs, especially when I'm surrounded by people who I don't know if they support the MAGA Gestapo, who are showing up in masks and terrorizing cities and towns. Mm-hmm. And as we record this, ICE was just in Charlotte, which is right down the road from me. ICE was just in Raleigh. ICE just came into a hospital in Nicole's hospital network and arrested a patient. And again, I don't want to make this purely political, but one poll showed that 50% of American evangelicals supported ICE entering places of worship to find and deport undocumented immigrants. A city councilman in my town, who is a pastor at the largest church in my town, in the run-up to the election this year, said that he supported masked ICE agents coming into our town and making arrests without warrants. So I do not feel comfortable worshiping around people that can't honor the humanity of the people created in the image of our Creator. We can disagree on politics, and you can believe that undocumented immigrants should be deported, but you don't have to support what the Gestapo is currently doing. Like there's a difference there. And when 56% of American evangelicals say they support this, I struggle showing up next to them.
Yeah, and I think, you're talking about, I don't want to make it political. And here's what's been going on, I mean, I guess for me in the past few months is more and more.
Which, Eric, remind people where you live.
I live in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Well, right outside Albuquerque, New Mexico. So if anybody wants to talk about their experience with the border and you live in South Dakota, like, just shut up. Right? Like, you want to talk about your border issues over there in North Carolina. What are you talking about? Your border with the Atlantic Ocean? You're talking about the people in Ocracoke, on the Outer Banks? What are you talking
Well
about?
done.
Well, I've seen the documentaries. Anyway, so like there's the side where it's like, I don't want to make this political because I agree. At the same time, there is an uprising that we've already seen, but whether you want to call it white Christian nationalism, MAGA, whatever, where these churches have decided that the church is political and it is their job to be political. And one of the churches in the town where I, was in ministry for, the pastor there said, we are going to be the most political church in town. Right here in Albuquerque, there is a church that it's like, I remember especially during COVID, but the pastor would start their sermon 15 minutes of just railing against either the Democrats in Washington or the Democrats in charge of
the largest church in my town held a service for Charlie Kirk after he was murdered.
Yeah.
Like there is a sign on Main Street in my town that says "Be a Charlie Kirk," and mentions the things that the quote unquote good things without any of the other stuff. But like multiple churches in my town have rallied around this idea of "Be a Charlie Kirk."
Yep.
And like, I want to say 1,000% that it was wrong that he was murdered. Like, absolutely wrong that he was murdered.
Sure.
But the evangelical response to that has been, in what I believe, inappropriate and disingenuous. I interrupted you. Finish what you were saying. I just wanted to get that piece out.
Yeah, I mean, so like there's an uprising of these very political churches, and it's beyond politics around like a single issue. Because I think when we were growing up in the church, if this was Unlearning Youth Group, it was like the church was political for abortion. That was it. Like that was about it. Maybe there were some other things, but for the most part,
gay marriage in the early 2000s.
Yeah, it was like abortion, and then you added gay marriage, and it was kind of like a side piece, and then there was like, but now it's the entire MAGA agenda. Now it's everything that Trump stands for, or it's against, even more so, against the left, quote unquote, or anything like that, and or socialism, like, and so now it makes me feel like if the side of the church that I don't recognize anymore, and I strongly,
keep going, keep
I strongly disagree with. It was going so well. The side of the church that I strongly disagree with, if they've decided that their job is political, is it lowering myself to their level by also doing the same thing and keeping it political? Or is it like, okay, when, and I'm betting you were taught this too, but when culture says this, the church needs to say this back, right? Culture has this and the church has an answer for it. Culture has Marvel and DC. The church has Bible Man.
Bible Man.
Culture has their cartoons. The church has VeggieTales. Culture has Justin Timberlake. The church has Chris Tomlin. Whatever it happens to be. So are we supposed to raise something up that's like this very, what I believe is a cultural side of Christianity, white Christian nationalism? When that starts to rise up, do I feel it's my role as someone within the church to speak up again for the things that Jesus said? And I don't like, I feel like it is. I feel like when we talk and when I talk to other people and I get people that are like, you've said the things that I've been feeling, but haven't put words to. It's like, is that a skill that God has put in my, like, has given me? You and I talk, like, I don't mind angry Facebook comments and people that disagree. I'm okay with that. It's like, is that a unique ability to go, okay, well then I got to use that strength to say, yeah, I'm good jumping into this arena and saying these things and standing up so that others can hear that it is wrong.
And then the flip side for me, the unique situation I'm in, because where I live is so red, 78% conservative county. When I am too outspoken, it takes away opportunities to impact people on a day-to-day basis. Because so much of this is controlled by people who disagree with me, I have been asked not to do things, not necessarily straight up to my face, but I know, reading the tea leaves, I didn't get a chance to do this thing because of my beliefs on this.
Yep.
And so it's not that I don't believe those things. It's not that I am being a coward and refusing to speak on them. It's just, at what point does speaking to large cultural issues impact the day-to-day impact I can have?
Yeah.
And so that's something I'm constantly wrestling with. If you follow me on Facebook, you'll notice I haven't said as much on there because the following on Facebook is so local. On Threads and Instagram, I'll say a lot more because the following is different. And so I'm not using that necessarily as a crutch or anything like that. At least I'm not doing it intentionally, but to have the impact in my local community that I want to have, I do have to pick and choose what and where I speak on things.
Yeah. And I think you shared it, in a previous episode of like someone with their, what was it, their recommendation or something, like, oh yeah, Jonathan, careful. He's a liberal, but it was like, you just get labeled a certain way. And those labels, kind of going back to the Charlie Kirk thing, like, not to dig it again, 100% wrong. But it's like, man, do you start to feel concerned on the other side that what are the consequences of speaking out against the religious right? What are the consequences of speaking out against the majority belief in your area? And how do you lose, what opportunities do you lose? What, any of that, like it's not just violence, but what if it comes down to that? I mean, it could be scary, but at the same time, what are the consequences? I mean, that's what I keep thinking. It's like, what are the consequences of not speaking out? At the end of the day, I was asked, I think we haven't talked about this, but I was interviewed for, we'll just go into it. I was interviewed for over an hour by a newspaper in Toledo about a guy I used to work with that I've talked about on the podcast before. He's got a Christian nationalist church, and he brought in Charlie Kirk's pastor, whatever his name is, to speak this past weekend. And they've been kind of speaking out against socialism, right? The big boogeyman of socialism.
They did an entire teaching series of Christianity versus all these different belief systems, where they're getting up there and attacking other belief systems and all the reasons they're wrong, which a lot of them are wrong, but just the way they're going about it is not great.
Right. And I got a question from somebody that was like, are you afraid that this church or this person is going to make your life hell, or you're going to get pushback? And it's like, at this point, because I don't work for the church, it's a little bit easier. I'm 1,500 miles away from their sphere of influence. It's a little easier, but yeah, it is a little scary to think you're speaking out against people that, people that are on the side that, Marjorie Taylor Greene can be hated by quote unquote the left and have no problem. But within 2 weeks of Donald Trump, of her disagreeing with Donald Trump and getting those death threats, she's gotten personal security and announced that she's leaving Congress. Like, that's the side that you're worried about, going, oh my gosh, that could be crazy. At the same time, I wonder if I could pull up my exact quote, but what I said is like, if I get pushback, or if I get blowback, or if I get, if anything happens to me because I said something, because, I said this, if standing firmly on the side of standing up against white Christian nationalists and habitual abusers brings me blowback, then I'm all for it. I mean, speaking out, what I spoke out against was this guy and his inappropriate relationships with women and his abuse of women, and then continuing to use that throughout his pastoral journey, now leading into his second church plant and very Christian nationalist church where he's got people who've drank the Kool-Aid on him. And it's like, yeah, I guess I do want to be known as the guy who is speaking up for kindness and speaking out against abuse and speaking out against white Christian nationalism. So I feel for all of the people who are going, I mean, I don't know when this is going to launch, but we're in Thanksgiving week. I feel for all of you, all of you that are going to go into a Thanksgiving dinner that cannot have conversations with certain people, or you cannot even go to certain people's houses for Thanksgiving because of what the church and politics have become. And I want to help. I'm just not sure how.
Yeah. And for the record, Eric has been chomping at the bit to go back to put out more episodes. Like, this has been a total me slowdown. So like I fully acknowledge that. And I think this is kind of a talking out loud processing piece of this here. I think another
well,
piece
hey,
of
you know,
this,
you're getting older, so your podcast libido kind of lowers. Maybe we need to get you on podcast hormone replacement therapy. Maybe, you know, if it's not a blue pill for church stuff, is it like a little purple pill? A little purple pill? Take it 30 minutes before you want to record a podcast and you'll be ready to go. Don't you miss this?
I was about to talk about how I feel.
No, come on, man. We could have this. We'd have more of this. Just take the purple pill. Come on, Charlie. Come on, Charlie. The magically Puridon, Charlie.
Is Charlie
Magical
the best name you should be
Mountain.
using right now?
Huh?
Is Charlie the best name you should be using right now?
No, it's not. But I was thinking every millennial will identify with the magical Puridon. Sorry. Tell me how you feel. I'm interested. I just had to throw that in there.
It's going to feel weird saying this after I'm laughing. I think another piece, and you're talking about it just kind of reinforced a little bit. You know, there are stages of grief. Mm-hmm. You go through different stages of grief. And I think for me, I'm still very much in the hurt stage of grief. And I think you've probably processed past that a little bit. I think, tell me if I'm wrong, but like, I wrote something back in June that I pulled up, and it was all about how I feel betrayed by the American church that raised me. Mm-hmm. And I think that is still such a strong feeling in what I feel right now, that one of the things that has kept me from saying things publicly is I know how things can go off the rails when you speak out of hurt and pain. And if I criticize, I want to criticize fairly. Mm-hmm. And I don't want it to be out of emotion. And one of the potential episode titles for the season that we were going to do was
Evangelical Dysfunction. You have ED. I've got Evangelical Dysfunction. Or ED. Empathy Dysfunction. Wow, see how great this would be? We could do an ED episode on how all of the men in MAGA have ED and they're afraid to admit it. It's empathy dysfunction. And is there a pill? Is there a pill like Cialis for your empathy? Yeah, we should have it like, I'm going to keep going if you don't stop me. And it's going to, there's the line. I'm looking at the line. Look, you're like,
8 months.
Look, I'm like a toddler. I'm like a toddler and I'm going to touch it. And you're like, but I'm going to touch it if you don't tell me not to. We can look at all the men in MAGA and in the abusive side of the church and be like, you just have ED. You need you need to take a pill so that you get a hard on for empathy.
Charlie.
Actually, we could change it on heart on. I'm going to say heart on. Okay? When you want to change, what you have to do is look more empathetically at people. You have to have a heart for people. So we need to help you get your heart on for others. Do not take Cialis. But if you have a heart on that lasts longer than 5 hours, call a medical professional.
My episode version title was going to be "Empathy is not a sin, you effing moron."
Oh, I like that better.
So I mean, I don't necessarily know that I was in the or am in the right place to necessarily put out episodes when I want to call people effing morons in the episode titles. I don't think that's going to be very loving or Christ-like.
Going back to the libido thing. See, I'm still willing to put out. Empathetically, of course. From a theological perspective. Yeah, man, this is great. See, we're vibing right now. Come on, Charlie, Leo Pleurodon. I'm sorry. I know
All
I'm
that to
derailing
say.
this. I apologize. I'm derailing this. I know you want to be serious on that one.
No. This is us.
Okay, yeah.
This is what people have missed, hopefully. But again, I don't want to take everyone's time, but that's kind of where we've been. And I hope to put something out in 2026. That's my hope. I hope the world around us is not so chaotic that there are new emotions we're having to process day after day after day. Like, I hope there are. I mean, Eric, we haven't even had a chance to talk about Michael Tate. Like, on the list of things that have happened, like, so much has happened that you and I have not had a chance to even privately talk
I don't know
about.
You should say privates with Michael Tate. That's kind of a problem. Yep.
Non-publicly, offline,
Yep,
we haven't had a chance to talk about one of the biggest. One of the most influential people in our childhood in the church.
Yeah.
Like, that's how crazy things have been. So hopefully things don't, like, I hope to put out a full season of this podcast sometime semi soon. Like, I think it will be good to do. I think I don't want to say it's needed because we're just two guys talking on the internet. But for some of you, it might be. And for those of you, I think, Eric, you fill in the gap here, but like, when Eric and I first talked about doing this episode, the thing that he said the most is that connection piece. How can we serve those of you who are listening to this? Because if and when we come back, we're probably not going to promote it much. So this will be for the people who are already listening to us. Those of you who have been around for a long time. It's not like we're trying to go out and make this the biggest show in the world. Like, it's past that. Yeah. So how can we help you? Reach out to us. Eric's at EricW712. I'm at Jonathan_Carone. Like, what can we do to serve you? What is a place that this podcast, whatever it turns into and is next, what can it do to help you out?
Yeah, because that is it, is, over and over again hearing, thank you for speaking out. Thank you for putting words to the thing that I've been feeling. In essence, again, do not take it this way. This is not meant to be like a substitute for community. But I think part of what church is meant for is to have that community where there is a bit of like community of believers where you can help each other and you can encourage each other and you can, meet in those ways. And it's like, does a podcast with two middle-aged dudes on the internet do that? No. But does it help you when you're faced with, everyone in your life being pro MAGA and you wondering what the heck's going on. Like, I don't know if you've watched it all, but have you seen the Necessary Conversations podcast? It's like these two leftist brother and sister. They are atheists, or agnostics, I should say. And they have a conversation every week with their hardcore right wing MAGA parents. And it is about as much of a dumpster fire as you can imagine. Like, no, I don't identify with the left wing kids all the time, but just seeing the reaction from these hyper evangelical, they're not even really that Christian, but they are, you know what I mean? They wear that same moniker because of the MAGA movement side. But it's like, just to see how much the brainwashing happens and how much they're willing to ignore all of Christ's teachings because of their political worldview, and getting into those things and like being able to speak out to say, yeah, I know that some of you are in this spot where it's like, oh, you know, here, oh, my brother's like this, or everyone in my family in our group chats, and you should see what happens, and we're probably not going to spend Thanksgiving together, and we're not going to be able to this, and they can't see their grandkids, and it's all over this type of thing, and you're starting to feel alienated, or you're leaving Jesus because the people that help raised you in church or in your youth group or in your small young adults group or your lead pastor are celebrating things that you don't feel like we should be celebrating, or that should have, or that would have been celebrated 10 years ago. So how can we speak to that? How can we bring some level of, here's where I can find Jesus in the midst of all of this, is really what I'm thinking through and I'm processing through. It's the kind of content that I want to create, is helping you all, but also in a way to process this too for me, so I don't just lose my humanity in all of this, and understanding that, you know, being, like your shirt says, practicing radical empathy, being a kind person, doing those sorts of things is important. And I shared a memory from, this was literally 10 years ago yesterday. I think what was happening at the time was there was like a, you know, one of the semi-annual refugee issues where there was like a refugee train or something like that coming from Latin America. And I just said this was back in 2015. The refugee issue is simple for Christians. Is it wise to be cautious? Yes. Should you live recklessly? No. Should you love recklessly? Yes. Do you believe you're going to heaven when you die? Your answer to that last question will determine how recklessly you'll be willing to love the, quote, one another's in our world. You may find political, financial, and logistical reasons not to love recklessly, but you will never find one theologically. And looking at that and going, I still believe that is as true today as I believed it was true. In fact, I believe it's more true today. And it's like, how can I bring that voice, almost like a voice of rationality, or a voice that isn't as empathetic, or not empathetic, emotionally overloaded or politically charged, because I don't want political power. I'm not in the church anymore to try and gain a following or gain a congregation or get tithes. I want people to understand and know that radical empathy, that radical love, that those sorts of things are what we are called to do, in spite of the political issues that happen. And what do we do when ICE comes around? What do we do when, I don't know, just at this point I'm like, ugh. I don't have a good button for that.
Yeah. So let us know. But as we close, as the band comes up and
First close.
Oceans is played. I think it's my last close. I don't have any.
Oh, you think it's your last close? Okay.
Unless you go somewhere. Who knows?
The whale noises are playing.
Swells and Wells. But my guess is many of you listening to this feel at least somewhat like me and Eric, or some combination of the two of us. And while more of us than I wish were true might not feel comfortable in church, and while Christian nationalists and those who prioritize a culture and political war over Jesus might call us names, I want to encourage you with the idea that you can still represent Jesus to those around you in powerful ways, just by being who you are. You don't have to call it out in Facebook posts. You don't have to have a podcast doing it. Just in the way you live your life can be a representation of Jesus to those around you that sets the seed, or like Michael Tate.
He's touched us, and I'm pretty sure we've touched him too.
That can lay the foundation for others to see Jesus in a different way. And I want to share a story with you that's going to make me sound like the hero of it. I promise you I'm not trying to toot my own horn. But many of you know that back in January, I started this platform called Healthy Sports Parents. And in 11 months, it's grown way bigger than I've ever imagined it would be. Recently, someone decided to come after me about something. So I made a reel on Instagram talking about just part of my overall journey. And someone left a comment and they said, I'm not interested in what that person says about you because I know godliness when I see it. Hmm. I've talked about Jesus like 4 times in the past year on that platform. It's not something that is a regular part of my communication on there. And I didn't say anything about Jesus in the post that I made that they commented on. But as hopefully you all have come to see through now 101 episodes of the show, I try to represent Jesus in everything I do. And we can still do that even if we're frustrated or turned off by the American church. Mm-hmm. Because while everything around us may have changed, Jesus hasn't changed and his call to us hasn't changed. So as you go into Thanksgiving, as you go into the holidays around people who may have disappointed you so deeply that you don't even want to be around them, but you're forced to be because they're family and you feel guilty not showing up. My halfway challenge and halfway encouragement to you is, can you represent the brown Palestinian Jesus that we read about in the Bible? They're going to represent white MAGA Jesus. We know that. But can you represent the brown Palestinian stonemason who gave up his life for the rest of us so that we could join him in his reconciliation to bring everything back to the way it's supposed to be? Right now, a lot of stuff isn't where it needs to be. So much so that I haven't felt comfortable talking about it publicly on the internet for 8 months. But we have the opportunity over the holiday season to join him in that without even really saying anything. Yeah. By just showing up and representing who he is and loving people as well as humanly possible, even when we disagree with them, and probably especially when we disagree with them. So that's my dismount. That's my close. Eric, what is your close? Do you have anything to add?
I think you nailed it on the head. I think my reaction is like, I can't control a lot of things in this world. What I can control is the way that I'm reacting to others. I can control how I show up. And so, to kind of bring what you said to a practical point, it's like, where can I show kindness? Where can I show empathy? Where can I show that sort of radical and reckless love that I think got me so fired up as someone in my early 20s coming back to church? And how can I...
Was it overwhelming?
Yeah, it was overwhelming, never ending. It was very reckless. I like with everything. Anyway, no. So I think keeping those things in mind for me is important. Is like how can I be kind to others? Because it seems like that's the thing that's being lost over and over again.
So that's it for this week. We don't know when we'll be back. We don't know what's next for us, but thanks for being along. Hope you have a great Thanksgiving and a great holiday season, and we will talk to you hopefully sooner than the last time we talked to you before this one. Have a great time, everybody.